Welcome to another episode of Time, Talent, Treasure Radio from Tejas Financial Group. Tejas Financial is a company that specializes in helping retirees and pre-retirees build purposeful retirement plans. Custom plans that not only help clients steward their treasure, but their time and talent as well. They believe that if you're taken care of financially, you go even further to make the family, community, and kingdom impact you truly desire to make, which is the ultimate purpose of wealth. If you'd like to set up a no-cost, no-obligation meeting with one of their financial advisors, give them a call at 222-4236. You can request a meeting at tejasfinancial.com or simply stop by their office on 19th Avenue Southwest in Wilmer. All right, we're back. Thank you so much for tuning in to Time, Talent, Treasure Radio right here on KWLM. You know, the last several weeks we've talked extensively about estate planning. Last week we had Tim Mattern on the show, and we really dove into really what does the plan look like, who's involved, and how can we help. Tim Mattern joins me on the show once again. And Tim, we're going to talk a little bit more about what happens when people don't have these plans in place. Then all of a sudden you need them, and this is a road you don't want to go down, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen firsthand some of the shortfalls and the pitfalls of that. And so I'm doing it from a perspective of, hey, I've seen the other side, so be proactive now.
Don't let that happen.
And don't let that happen, because it can be a headache, and there's unintended consequences when that happens sometimes.
Yeah, you've got a couple of things we want to walk through here. What's number one?
Yeah, I think the first one is just the initial time commitment. I think people overvalue that. I see that once the documents begin to get prepared, there is some legwork, a couple hours, but beyond that, it's the attorney's doing a lot of the work for you. So I think there's this, skewed perspective that it's this huge time commitment. I got to focus 3 weeks on it. It might take 3 or 4 weeks to do, but you're only putting in a few hours. The attorney's driving that ship, and it's a lot less time now than it will be after you're gone. And I think one thing we failed to mention is everyone should have one. Why? Because you're likely going to die at some point. I think is pretty accurate. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think 100% of people.
100% exactly.
Most, but I think we will probably.
But that's exactly, and so it's the inevitable. And so why not have these documents in place for you and your family?
Why do again, you mentioned that people overestimate the amount of time, effort, and energy it's going to take. Is it just because we're talking about death? Is that why people don't want to do this? Why don't they put it off?
I don't know. Honestly, there is a piece of that. I think that there's a mindset of like, if I talk about this, I might, speak it into existence. And it's something that has to be done. But it is a general consensus is people don't want to put the time commitment towards it for whatever reason, for busy lives. And we can make all the excuses in the world, but at the end of the day, it's probably the most prudent thing to do.
Yeah. What's number two?
Yeah. Second one, I think is just us being able to look at where you're currently sitting with your beneficiaries and how your estate looks now. Because even though you might say, hey, I have some pieces in place, if we haven't reviewed it, and I don't want to say if the attorney has not reviewed it, you might have the wrong person. Or you might have this 401k setup or IRA set up incorrectly. I won't get into details, but there's so many reasons to put either an individual or person on an account as beneficiary, or you should have a trust or an entity. Those types of things all vary depending on what type of account you have. And so for us, I've seen where they're miscategorized, so to speak. And so I've seen the pitfalls of that, and the amount of time and legwork it takes to get those corrected after someone passes. It is a big time commitment. And the biggest thing that happens is the person who set that up, likely what they envisioned isn't happening.
Sure.
And it's mostly because they just misunderstood how things should be done. And that's why you hire the professional. You hire the attorney that does good work and can help you make those decisions.
So it takes less time, effort, and energy, you think. It's good to get your ducks in a row, so to speak, before you need it. What's number three?
Yeah. Third one is if something or when something happens, if you don't have these pieces in place, you might leave some of these decisions up to the state and up to the courts. And I don't think anybody wants that. I've talked to hundreds of clients, and every single one of them, I think, want to make the decision of how their estate is distributed and what their heirs get versus potentially the courts getting involved. So you have that discretion. Why not take advantage of it?
Sure.
It may not be perfect in your head, and this might go back to the time commitment. I think people think like once an estate plan is set and a trust is set, you can't make any changes. You can always go back and amend it. And so it's a fluid document, as it should be, because life happens. Yeah. There's going to be changes. So don't let that be a barrier either.
Yeah. That's a great point. I think at the end of the day, you're foregoing a little bit of work, time, and effort now and taking a huge risk at being a big pain in the neck. Taking time. Probate just takes an incredible amount of time.
Yep.
And what's more important than your time? And I think that's kind of the reoccurring theme here.
Yeah. And then I think the last one too is then for you and the kids or your spouse, like leaving decisions up to them. And I've said this to many clients, especially those that deal with farmland or larger estates. It's, hey, you may feel like your kids get along well. I think we should probably continue that. Yeah. But you put some zeros behind, hey, we're going to make decisions, and kids might act differently than how they were when you were living. Because I've seen that happen too. And that's a very scary thing, because they're like, oh, my kids will take it. Or you put the decision on the oldest, right? Because they have the most responsibility. And now they're put in a position to make decisions based on like, hey, this is what I think, or this is what mom or dad wanted. And they might do that way, but you might have a sibling that might not see eye to eye. It allows room for friction to occur, and I think you want to avoid that at all costs possible. Yeah. If your kids get along now, let's continue to keep it that way, and this is one way to help ensure that. I'll tell you one way to test it: don't have an estate plan.
That's a great point. We've got about 30 seconds left. If people call in and want to get the conversation started with you or one of the other advisors at Tejas Financial, what's it sound like? What's that meeting look like?
It's honestly, so the first time is, number one is, do you want to have it here? Do you want us to be involved with it? But we can help align you with attorneys, either local ones that we know or the ones that you have. And the second piece is just get that first meeting on the books and just talk about what you guys want to do. Again, you don't have to have the information. You don't have to have it penciled out prior. It's really simple. The attorneys are great. They walk through it with you. And so just the first phone call, get the meeting in a half hour. They're going to send you a packet ahead of time so you can give them some information. So at least they're not completely blind going into the situation. But then it's just conversations at that, and really identifying, how do you and your spouse want to see this laid out after you guys are gone to your heirs?
All right, sounds good, Tim. Well, if you want to take Tim up on this offer and begin this conversation to begin planning your estate, now is the time to do so. You can contact Tim or any other of the financial advisors at Tejas Financial by calling 222-4236. You can request a no-cost, no-obligation meeting at their website, tejasfinancial.com, and you can also stop by their office located on 19th Avenue Southwest in Wilmer. Before I let you go, just one more quick reminder. We have a brand new episode of Retire Repurpose coming up later this week. Ben Tejas and I talk about your identity, one of the most important things that you can really figure out when it comes to your retirement. That's coming up this Friday at 4:30 right here on KWLM. I'm Jared Sylvester, joining you in this episode of Time, Talent, Treasure Radio. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through an Avantax affiliated insurance agency.